therapeutic area covers different diseases, such as metabolic disorders, cardiovascular disease, CNS disease. However, there are technical challenges to generate functional antibodies targeted GPCR. It is difficult to generate antibody drug candidate. Currently, there are only 2 approved GPCR antibody drugs: mogamulizumab for leukemia and erinumab for migraine. 10 years ago at GMAX, we first developed GPCR antibody technology platform, and then we developed M-body technology platform. M-body is a multifunctional molecule constructed by a core antibody, normally a GPCR antibody, with 1 or 2 function groups. Which it is described on the right side of the slide. Slide 4. We mainly pursue drug development in 3 therapeutic areas: metabolic disorder, including type 2 diabetes, NASH, obesity, cardiovascular disease, including pulmonary arterial hypertension, PAH, non-fibrosis, heart failure. Immuno-oncology, including ovarian cancer, triple-negative breast cancer, melanoma. Slide 5, please. GMAX GPCR antibody drug pipeline is at the forefront globally. We have 6 novel drug candidates at different clinical stages. GMA102 for type 2 diabetes in phase 3, GM105 for obesity in phase 2, then GM301A for adult PH, and then GMA30B for pediatric PH. Both projects are in a global multi-center phase 1B trials, which are testing in the PH patient. GM106 in phase 1, GM131 is going to start a global multi-center phase 2 trial. In addition, GMAX has 8 projects at preclinical stage and multiple projects in early development. Slide 6, please. Here is a more details description of the different clinical stages products. On the left-hand side, GM102 and 106 one for type 2 diabetes, one for obesity. GM102 is an antibody-based GLP-1 receptor, an agonistic molecule. Already finished phase 2 clinical trial in Australia and New Zealand. Currently, it is in a phase 3 trial for type 2 diabetes. On the right-hand side, GM105, the same molecule as GM102, were enter phase 2 trials for obesity in China. And then we also have 106 and 107 as second generation molecules. GM1 on the left-hand side, GM301 is a humanized antibody target endothelin receptor A. It may become the first non-lasting pH drug with better efficacy and less adverse effect. Currently, we are conducting a multi-center phase 1B trial in both China and the US. And we plan to go to test it in the following clinical trials in Europe as well. GM131, which is the first antibody drug for diabetic kidney disease, the DKD. We are preparing IND filing for phase 2 clinical trials in China and the US. Then the GM106 I mentioned is an antibody which targets both GIPR receptor and GLP-1 receptor in phase 1 clinical trials in Australia. And then GM306, GMA307, both are antibodies, are second generation molecule for pH, non-fibrosis, and DKD. Last, but not the least, GM202, which on the right-hand corner side is an antibody as well. We are going to testing for ovarian cancer. Slide 7, please. We have an excellent management and technology team. Dr. Jin is the chairman and the CEO. He worked at Amgen for 15 years, and he engaged in many drug development projects in the past. He founded GMAX in the year 2010. Dr. Shao is our COO, one of the founders of Porton. Porton is a pioneer in Chinese biopharmaceutical industry. Then I'm the CSO with expertise in GPCR research and GPCR drug development. Dr. Fang is our CFO with 30 years experience in finance and capital market, particularly with IPO experiences. Dr. Fan is our senior VP for pharmaceutical sciences, has many years experience in antibody CMC. Dr. Xu is VP of manufacture and operation, has the leadership role in building GMP manufacturing facilities. The next slide, slide 8. So overall, GMAX have an innovative product pipeline with drug candidate of blockbuster potentials. The drug candidates are for both serious chronic diseases and rare diseases in the area of metabolic disorder, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. Next slide. So here are the possible opportunities to work together with you. Due to novelty and uniqueness of GMAX product pipeline, it also have an international R&D team, and plus it have branches in the US and Belgium. So we may establish a partnership with you through collaboration on the clinical project or the preclinical project, or seek opportunities for license out and or license in. The last slide. So I'd like to thank the organizer for the symposium, and thanks for everybody.
Thanks, Dr. Zhang, for the great sharing. We are happy to see that actually GMAX Bio has its legal structure in Belgium, and especially in China-Belgium Technology Center. And I can second that Belgium is a very favorable country for many Chinese biopharma companies. For example, many of them know that actually the time to approve the clinical trials in Belgium is among the fastest in Europe, which can be, of course, a great plus point for Chinese companies who would like to set up here in Belgium. And before we move to our third speaker, I would like to kindly remind you that this webinar also offers Chinese translations. For our participants who are joining us from China, feel free to change to the interpretation channel as Chinese. So now let's welcome our third speaker. I would like to invite Mr. Renzo Isler, Director of EU SME Center, who is joining us from Beijing today, a place where he has shared experience and memories for over 40 years. Ms. Isler, we're all ears.
Well, thank you very much, and I really do appreciate the invitation. It's a great honor to be sharing our experience with such distinguished guests. My effort today is just trying to briefly explain to you what the USME Center is and what we are doing in order to support the development of the small, medium enterprises of Europe that want to do business in China. First, about our center, just a few words. The USME Center is a special project. It's been funded directly by the European Commission. It's operating since 2010, so for over 10 years, and we're currently on the phase 3. The phase 4, however, is already in the pipeline, and it will be running then until 2025. Our objective is to help the European SMEs to get ready to do business in China. And we provide information, advice, training, and supporting services. We are also a member of the Enterprise Europe Network, which is one of the largest networks under the European Union umbrella. And our main office is in Beijing, but we have a strong presence in Brussels via the Eurochambre. The implementing partners of this of the consortium for this phase 3, you can see below. And there are 5, so there are 4 chambers of commerce plus 1 business council. Our services, we provide basically 4 clusters of services. The first one is so-called the Knowledge Center. Here you can find comprehensive market reports, guidelines, and case studies of different industries and different sectors. Then we have an Advice Center where we give practical, but it's important also we give confidential advices on business developments, market access, legal issues, and human resources. The third cluster is the Training Center, where hopefully face-to-face, although nowadays we still have to rely only on online training programs, raising the SMEs' awareness about the China-related business issues. Last but not least is a very important platform, which is the advocacy platform, which is providing a coherent and consistent, as well as consolidated voice for the European SMEs via the Interchamber SME working group run by the European Union Chamber of Commerce in China. The Knowledge Center in more in detail, we put at your disposal of our, let's say, partners. We put disposal over 200 market reports, guidelines, and case studies available to download from our website. We have insights on key industry sectors for European SMEs, such as, in fact, healthcare, food and beverage, environment tech, and so on. So as you can see, we have a number of different activities that we follow and we go through. The important thing I want to say, we don't deal with finance. So all the issues related to financial activities are not under our focus. We do mostly commerce and trade. The website you can see on the lower part, lower right-hand side of the slide. You can click in here and you can follow us online. The Advice Center has a number of features. Here I just wanted to introduce to you the two main features that we provide. The first one is the self-diagnosis tool, which is an online tool that allows you to gauge your readiness in developing your business strategy in China. It has 4 different blocks for different modules. One is the business environment, the second is products, the third is money, and the fourth, the people. We have run this like a quiz, so it's very user-friendly. It's an easy exercise to run. I would recommend any one of you who are interested to try it. It takes 5 minutes each, more or less. So it's a very, as I said, it's a very user-friendly. Important thing is that you have to enter our website and find the availability for this tool. The second very important tool that you find also on the website, here you have the screenshot from our website, and you see I circled in red, Ask the Expert. That is a very useful function that has been used off and on by hundreds of SMEs or interested parties that have sent us questions. There they send us questions and we try to reply directly if we have a capability within our own expertise, with our in-house experts, or if the question is a bit more elaborate, then we may outsource it to specialists who will then reply directly online to the interlocutors. Again, I say this is confidential. It's based on one-to-one. The names of the people involved and the people that are asking questions are not revealed. The important thing, again, is also another feature that we provide is a training center. So wherever there are gaps, there is a gap to fill. And that comes from our European partners, either SMEs or business service organizations. Then we organize trainings. Unfortunately, today, the only trainings we do are online, but they're quite efficient as well. And we have already been running quite a number of them. By the way, if you enter our website, you can also connect, you register, and you are able also to see in the YouTube, you can see the taped version, recorded version of all our webinars. The advocacy is again, it's a fundamental element, a fundamental pillar of our activities, because that's where we interact with the authorities. We go into the regulatory landscape. It's so much important, I think, especially for the healthcare business. To have a good understanding of the regulatory environment in China is of tremendous importance in order, especially not to make mistakes and not to spend money or throwing money out of the window in an attempt to enter the Chinese market without enough knowledge. The Interchamber SME Working Group, which is run together with the European Chamber, it provides an up-to-date information on the regulatory, economic, and social changes happening in China. Here we follow basically all the step of the way, what is hot issues on the Chinese market nowadays. But lastly, of course, we made a very good analysis, strong analysis of the 14th five-year plan and what that means. And I will touch base later on a case study that I want to share with you. So what have we been doing for the healthcare industry? We have been able so far to raise awareness. We have been sharing through webinars and through reports some of the key factors, like a capital needs if you want to enter the intellectual property rights importance, how crucial it is, the time to market, so as to be one step ahead of the competition if possible. We provide knowledge, so we give overall market information in terms of market segmentation, machineries, the pharma areas, regulation, the digital environment, so crucial nowadays in the ever-developing market here in China. And of course, we give advice, what I mentioned before, via the Ask the Expert function. We have this one-on-one contact and sharing previous experiences. Opportunity, we have, I would like to stress, as you see on the right-hand side, this is a report, it's a publication that we have issued in July of this year, which focuses in fact on the healthcare market in China. Here you can find a number of statistics, information, the data that could be extremely valuable for any one of you that may be interested to enter the market, either from the production point of view or exporting your products or else. Opportunities, I just listed some of these that we can see here, and which are more in detail you can find in this report, is for example the current situation of the modern society, which is really influenced by the bad habits of the Western world, which is especially in the dietary changes, which prompted obesity, quite a big problem now becoming in the younger generation. So let's say the Z generation and forward, or I would say even the millennials and forward, and other diseases coming from stress. So there is a lot of stress, again, especially on the younger generation, who have to fight their own way forward to find a way to find a good positioning in society. And you know how difficult, especially my Chinese friends that are listening, you all know how difficult it is nowadays in China for a young graduate to find a good position and a good job. So it takes a lot of efforts and a lot of stress that is plaguing this. Of course, then we're talking about the aging society, coronary disease, pulmonary diseases, of course, cancer is another big issue, et cetera, et cetera. The other opportunity is embedded in the 14th five-year plan, where it is clearly indicated there are areas that the opportunity is giving with financing, with support, because the government realizes that they have to focus more on the social net, because the social net, meaning education, health, and retirement, these three elements are very important in order to improve the general condition of the population of China. Pricing, I think it was mentioned before by Mr. Hu, I think it's Bulto, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Pricing clearly is one of the key challenges, because you find a great competition. There is no doubt about it that the competition is becoming a crucial factor. And important thing, I will not stop in recommending, is the protection of the IPR. Any company that wants to come to China, I think in terms of the process of decisions you want to take, the first one and most important one is to identify the IPR protection and the challenges. And here I want to open a window to our cousin entity, which is the China IP SME Help Desk. This is another project which is also run by the European Commission, and that runs here in China already a long time. And they are specifically focused on helping small, medium enterprises from Europe that want to establish their position in China, to analyze and to make sure that they have done their homework in terms of patents, trademarks, copyright, trade secrets, anti-unfair competition, anti-monopoly, and so on. Very crucial element, which I recommend any small medium enterprise from European Union that wanted to come to China to take that in serious account. 3 case studies. I really felt like I would like to share very briefly. I know that time is our enemy, but just briefly 3 case studies that I want to share what happens to us through the Ask the Expert function. We had, for example, one question coming from an SME operating medical devices, a European SME operating medical devices. And they were questioning if there is a preferential condition for registration and to have the opportunity to import their devices. Well, the answer is pretty well said. for China, and this is also embedded in the 14th five-year plan, one important element is the innovation. So the Chinese will consider with a preferential view and preferential eye those products, those companies that will bring to China innovative products, devices, drugs. That's something that could enhance the standard of living for the Chinese population. For all the others, of course, they have to follow the usual procedures. So they have to they have to go through the licensing, go through the testing, et cetera, et cetera. But this is nothing new. This is it's valid for healthcare, but it's valid for any other product that wants to be imported in China. One thing that we also said in our feedback to the question that we received is that we would also consider to target private medical institution. We know that in Hainan and Boao, there is this creation, you can say, of China's hub for medical tourism. This is something that is up and coming, and we also indicated this to the question. Second question that came to us, much more simple, if you wish, it was kind of a quick question and answer, was they requested about the patient sample size for medical devices. Well, that was in terms of a patient sample size for clinical validation of in vitro diagnostics of the IVD point of care testing. It's basically for class 3, 1,000 clinical cases, class 2, 200 clinical cases. So this is something that we have available within our, I'd say, our internal experts, so that we were able to be quick in answering this question. A third question was it was a wellness device registration. So this was a wellness device. And they wanted to know about the activity tracker. So how is this, if they have to, well, of course, if this is connected to Wi-Fi, Bluetooth and all that, you need this radio type approval, so RTA certificate, which has to be issued by the Chinese authorities. And then if this, then this needs also to have this famous CCC ID. So this is the China compulsory certificate, which has to be placed on some of these devices upon certain conditions. So as you can see, there are different questions that come to us. I just picked up 3 that are related to healthcare, but we received many others in the different fields. So far over the last 12 months, I think we received something like 350 requests and questions of different natures and different difficulties. Last point is what are the golden rules, what are the success factors? And here you have heard this before, but the first important thing is that you keep up with the latest policies. So be up to date, contact us if you are not sure about what the latest policies are. We're happy to help and happy to share. Focus on innovation, but also protect your intellectual property. Because innovation, as I mentioned, is something that the Chinese government is in their 14th five-year plan. It is very much stressed. So if we can, from Europe, from European excellencies and companies, provide this kind of innovation and export this innovation to China, that will be very much welcome. But again, make sure that you protect your intellectual property. Hire good agencies and work with the reliable partners. This is an absolute must. China is a big country. You have the good people and the bad people, like in every country. So make sure that you do your homework and you connect with the right people. Also here, we can be of help. We have our connections. We don't do, this is not an area that we that we can work, so we're not brokers in the sense. But of course, we can have good references. And last but not least, look for your niche. Again, China is a big country, but don't shoot with the BB gun because you would waste a lot of bullets. You have to shoot with a rifle, and your target must be very, very clear in front of you. So you have to do your homework, prepare yourself, find the area that you can have a leg up where you could have something to say, you would be listened to here in China. And then you will probably have a good result and good success, good profitability, and make a win-win. So this is all from my side. This is our site. You can scan the QR code if you wish, and follow us through our social media or directly online. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Renzo Isler. We have a lot of Belgian companies who are interested in Chinese pharma industry joining us today. So now we know where to go to get the great support from this EU initiative, EU SME Center, and they are not alone in their journey to the Chinese market. Thanks again.
Thank you.
So here comes to our roundtable discussion. In recent years, China and Europe have becoming increasingly attractive for biotech companies seeking R&D partnership, new distribution market, or investment capital. Yet we all know that the technology will not work out of the lab to be translated on their own. That's why we invited 4 guest speakers today at different stage of their company development to share respective experiences. I will give a very brief introduction here. So our first guest speaker is Dr. Miguel Forte, CEO of Bone Therapeutics. As the name suggests, so Bone Therapeutics focus on the development of cell therapy and cell therapy products for orthopedic and bone diseases. In the year of 2020, Mr. Forte signed agreements with 2 Chinese companies to commercialize their allowed technology in China. And our second guest speaker is Ms. Candido, Papilla Candido. She is now the Asian account manager of RadioMix. She is a sinologist with good understanding of Chinese business culture and is now busy working on the Chinese market entry strategy for RadioMix, a next generation imaging research company focused on AI-powered healthcare. And our third guest speaker today is Dr. Yijun Chen, who is the general manager of oral RNA biotechnology. This name may sound new to you because actually this is a very new joint venture that is funded by China Grand Pharma, a very innovative Chinese biopharma company, together with E-RNA, a Belgian clinical stage company. So Dr. Chen Yijun will be joining us from Nanjing, China, where the joint venture is based. And our fourth guest speaker is Dr. Yun Zhu. She obtained her doctorate degree in Netherlands and now working as a senior business manager in Europe for BGI Group, the world's leading provider of genomic sequencing services and proteomic services. Last but not least, we are very honored to have Mark Deschamps, a very experienced pharma industrial expert. He's international affairs representative of BioWin, life science cluster of the Wallonia region, and president of CEBR, the Council of European Bioregion. Mark, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Licia. So it is really my pleasure today to moderate the discussion we will have at the roundtable. And because the time is running, I would like to immediately kick off the discussion by asking all of you, starting with you, Miguel Forte, about the impact of the pandemics for your company. Was it positive? Was it negative? Could you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Thank you, Mark. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to really discuss about relationships from Belgium companies and China. And we'll have an example of that down the road. Thank you, Licia, for the introduction, and thanks, Mark, for the question. So the COVID pandemic actually impacted all of us, but I think all of us found solutions around it. We've been able to do business at the distance, and we've been able to be creative. As an example, the studies we're conducting globally, we've been able to more and more do some of the monitoring and the activities at the distance. But even more relevant for the discussion here, we've been able to establish a partnership with 2 Chinese companies with actually one single face-to-face meeting at JP Morgan before the pandemic started. And then all the other discussions, including due diligence and even the visit to our installations and manufacturing setup, was done at a distance with the use of technology. So if there is a will, there will be a way to do it. And so the pandemic has taught us that resilience, drive, and clear vision of where we want to go can overcome the challenges, some of them very significant challenges like the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Miguel. I'm looking to you, Fabrizia. Could you elaborate also on that from Radiomics perspective?
Yes, indeed. As Miguel, I also would like to thank you all for the invitation, and Licia also for the introduction. So I think that COVID for radiomics really represented the Chinese concept of Weiji, which is a crisis made of danger, but also opportunity in the same time. Because, for example, it affected the onboarding of new employees that were obliged to work from home, and myself included. I started working from radiomics from Italy, and for 3 months I was stuck at home. Then I arrived here and I had to home working from my house in Belgium. Also the opportunity to network by participating in face-to-face events, the opportunity to travel, to explore potential partnership abroad. And some countries, like some target countries like China, are still very difficult to access due to very strict COVID rules. And find the right partner, build a strong connection, and the so-called guanxi online is a quite complex challenge. But nevertheless, COVID also allows us to accelerate and optimize our digital tools and communication, to explore the application of our technology to the respiratory field. For example, we developed a radiomic signatures called COVIA for the detection of COVID-19 from CT scan, and it is already in use in the CHU Liège. And also the European Project Dragon, which is aimed to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to develop a decision support system capable of delivering a more precise coronavirus diagnosis and a more accurate prediction of patient outcome. All of this is based on a federated machine learning system, and radiomics is the leader in this project, which involves 18 partners from high-tech, small, medium enterprise, academic research institute, and hospitals that are around Belgium, Italy, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and the UK. So it was really a challenge, but also an opportunity.
Thank you very much, Fabrizia. I'm going to you, Mr. Chen, because during the pandemic, you created a JV with a company I know quite well, which is Eterna Immunotherapies. So please, I leave it to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Moritz. Thanks for the question. And I also appreciate the invitation from our organizer. And I think, Mr. Ford and also Fabrizia, they already share some challenges and inconvenience brought by the COVID-19. I think I must admit that the COVID-19 pandemic is actually a global challenge to the human beings and our society. I think every country is suffering from a different, aspect. Although currently there are several vaccines that have been urgently approved, but I'm very honest to say I don't think we can see the light from the tunnel. But however, when we come back to talk about the field of the mRNA vaccine, this is what I'm working on. Actually, COVID-19, the pandemic is a catalyzer for the field. We know that before the COVID-19, there was quite a lot of the controversies regarding whether mRNA is a druggable, whether it's safe enough to be administered in human being. But with the approval of 2 mRNA vaccine, I think it's shed light on this field. So when we come back to our company, the Orona Biotechnology, which is a joint venture of the Grand Pharma China and the Eterna Immunotherapeutic. Eterna Immunotherapeutic is an mRNA-based therapeutic company at the clinical stage. Currently I think because of the COVID-19 pandemic, currently the application of mRNA vaccine make it quite obviously a very easy decision to join into the race for Grand Pharma. We all know that the mRNA is quite hot now, but when we take a bit of the clock back to the January 2020, at the very beginning of the outbreak of COVID-19, actually China was in the pandemic, in a panic, as well as the global pharma industry and the financial market. But actually, we started to invest in the MRI field from 2019. So when the COVID-19 outbreak, we smelled the opportunity and realized that the time for the MRI field is coming. So in fact, it became quite easy for us to make the decision for the equity investor to Eterna and also to form the strategic partnership with Eterna. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Etienne. Looking to you now, Mrs. Chu from BGI Europe, could you elaborate also on that topic?
Yeah, so first I would like to thank you for inviting me here, and thanks for the introduction. So BGI is a top leading sequencing company in the world. So in this pandemic, we are one of the first companies have developed the test kit and is still selling worldwide. And also we have developed and helped to build many COVID test automated labs in many places. So we have shown what we could do and how fast we could respond to this urgent need from this particular situation. And we also have bring the power of biotech to fight against the COVID. So that's, I think, the most challenging and what we could do through this pandemic thing.
Thank you, Mrs. Chu. Now, I would like to discuss a little bit more with you, Miguel, with your company, by the way, Bone Therapeutics. You mentioned that during the pandemic, you signed an agreement with Chinese companies, so to my knowledge, Link Health and Pregene, to develop and commercialize ALLOP technology in China. Could I ask you what guided your choice of these partners in China, and who made actually the first move? You mentioned the meeting at JP Morgan. Was it you? Was it the Chinese partner, or all together?
Thank you, Mark. And as I said, we've been able to put that agreement in place. But let's take one step back. ALLOP is a cell therapy that takes advantage of MSC-derived cells to accelerate the formation of bone. So in fact, gives you the opportunity to address some unmet medical needs like difficult fractures or need to repair bone, but rests on a very high-level technology using, as I said, MSCs and differentiating them for a therapeutic effect. The DNA, the nature of bone therapeutics, is to develop assets with limited capacity at this stage for commercializing those assets. So it is our strategy to engage with potential partners that would help us on further our capacity to develop the products, but above all, have a geographical reach beyond what we can do ourselves as a company. And reaching out to markets which are very relevant with significant unmet medical needs and eager for new technology like the Chinese market and the Asian market, we would not be able to do on our own. We needed to find a partner which would have interest in the technology, knowledge on the new technologies, but also ability and reach to commercialize. And being able to interact with the local structures, to start with the regulatory, but also with physicians, and eventually be able to commercialize. So we were on the lookout for Chinese partners, and we've actually engaged with multiple. And as I said, we had a first very constructive face-to-face discussion at JP Morgan in 2020. And then we subsequently did, as I said, everything at the distance. But we really realized one thing, is that the companies had already knowledge and eagerness about the cell therapy technology. And that was a key criteria for us to be able to have a partner that was understanding what we were doing. But they also had the ability to interact locally with the regulators and had experience on that. And they were able to understand the vision of what we wanted to do for commercialization. So the process took the normal process. And since we've signed the deal at the end of last year, we have been continuing a very strong and collaborative interaction. I mean, I must say it is a pleasure, and we've been surprised with the the drive, the knowledge, the thoroughness, and the collaborative spirit of the relationship we have. And we have, from the start, started to prepare a clinical trial in China, which went through very positive and good discussions with an NMPA, the Chinese regulatory authority, and we're on the verge of actually moving on to implementing the clinical trial. So to summarize, we needed an organization that understood the technology, could have local implantation, be able to take the technology and down the road commercialize. And that's what we found, and we're very pleased with the interaction currently.
Thank you very much, Miguel, for your very relevant insights and very important, I think, for the audience as well. Coming back to you, Fabrizia. So I know obviously a little bit radiomics, and I read recently that your ambition really for the next one is to focus on globalization of your product and your technology. Could you tell us what you are looking for with regard to China? And by the way, I think also that US is on target.
Yes. So the first step for us is to understand how the Chinese market would welcome our offer and to find a trustful partner. This is really of main importance for us. A partners which can support us in understanding the market and also lead us to the right target. As mentioned also before, due to COVID, this is not an easy task. Virtual events have somehow allowed us to develop some connections and some lead this year, but we really look forward to the possibility of joining mission to China in the future. In the meanwhile, we are working on our preparation. So also, as Renzo said in the previous intervention, we are doing our homework. So we are delineating our possible targets, both in the oncology and respiratory field, our local competitors, the size of the pharma and biotech market that can be interested in our product and solution, the regulatory environment, indeed, the steps that are required, and also territorial analysis of where we could potentially set up our presence one day. We also carefully follow the geopolitical situation between the European Union and China, and also the internal policies that the Chinese government is implementing toward artificial intelligence and advanced technology in the biopharma sector. And we also have worked on the translation of our materials in Chinese to be easily accessible. Indeed, there are hard challenges like the linguistic barrier or the high risk IP and trademark protection situation, and the differences in the treatment that China accords to local and foreign firms, and the advancement of the Chinese company in AI, which increased the competition. But we think that there are good opportunities that are worth the effort. For example, if we think about the fact that China is the second largest pharmaceutical industry globally, and we think so that the effort is actually worthy.
Thank you, Fabrizia. Thank you for explaining your strategy towards China. Coming back to you, Eugene, obviously with Gan Pharma, as you explained, you invested into Eterna Immunotherapies and a big investment, by the way, in the Series B, and then you moved to the creation of the joint venture. I would like to ask you two questions. How the collaboration is working today between you and the Belgian companies, and is the joint venture model the future model for this type of collaboration?
Okay, thank you, Mark. So I think currently we are working quite smoothly between Orana and Eterna. And currently we are built up a 2,000 square meter R&D platform and a pilot scale at GMP facility in Nanjing. This platform is handing over to our R&D team to start the research activity in this month. And this platform can support our discovery studies and process development, and as well as clinical sample manufacturing until phase 3 clinical trial. And parallelly, we are working closely with our Eterna partner to transfer the mRNA manufacturing and the LNP formulation technology from Eterna to the China side, as well as the quality system. Meanwhile, we are exploring the pipelines in the fields of cancer immunology, infection disease, and also like a genetic deficiency disease. So you coming back to the joint venture model, very honest to say, I don't think the JV is a very common model for the cross-border collaboration. You may notice that in the past few years, most of the cross-border collaboration in China are product or pipelines in license. I think this, the in-license model is relatively straightforward, but making a joint venture is another story. Many factors needed to be considered. The most important one, I think, is about the corporate strategy, which will guide your collaboration model. And it's a very long-term commitment, which is much longer than a life cycle of a product. So without a very clear corporate strategy and the determination from the senior management team, I think the collaboration will get lost in between. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much for those explanations, Eugene. And yes, I was aware that it was really a corporate strategy of Grand Pharma to go in this direction. And that's a very interesting model anyway. So, Yun, actually, what was your experience to enter the European market? Because I know that you have already different subsidiaries all across Europe. And what were the opportunities and the challenge in developing your activities and your partnership in Europe?
Yes, thanks, Mark. So BGI has been in the European market for more than 15 years, and we have collaborations across the whole Europe. I think trust is the most and the first important thing we have to build with our collaborators and with our clients. And for BGI, we are always thinking for a long-term relationship with them. And secondly, we think to have a localized team, localized supply chain will help to build the business in Europe. So we have staffs localized across Europe in different sites, and we have labs built in different sites in Europe. And we are also going to build more labs in Europe in the coming future. So I think that's the most important things to entering this market. So, BGI Group has many sectors in our company. So we have collaborations with, in Europe, we have worked with governments, work with academic industrials, and also hospitals, and also many other pharmaceutical companies. So our investing department also looking for like the novel cutting edge technology in the IVD market. So that's we are happy to investing in here.
Thank you very much. And as my information is correct, you don't have already subsidiaries in Belgium, so we really look forward to see you in our market. Now, I would like to close this roundtables with actually your feedback for other companies. And first, looking to the Belgian companies, Miguel, and after you, Fabrizia, could you give to the Belgian life science companies a kind of hint or tips if to help them actually to develop activities in China? Starting with you, Miguel.
Sure. Thanks, Mark. I think from what I've said before, I think it's important to find a strong relationship based on the strategic criteria and the vision of where you want to go. I think if we also take a step back, and I would like to take the opportunity to comment that another thing that the pandemic gave all of us, and Eugene actually mentioned that, is the relevance of the field, not only addressing the sudden unmet medical need, but supporting a lot of other unmet medical needs. So the field is vibrant, it's expanding, and it's providing a lot of opportunities and addressing a lot of patient needs. In addition to that, Belgium is making a significant commitment, and we saw Prime Minister recently in an event where there is a commitment to make Belgium the Valley of Health and biotechnology. So a strong commitment from the political will, from the structures, from cash, from the companies to make us a preferred environment within Europe. So we should take advantage of that internally and make that a plus to the relationship with partners that we have all over, including China. I think for us, for markets and environments, there are geographically and culturally distant from where we are, it's important to have a partner with a strong dialogue, a strong identity, and the ability to really align the strategic perspectives. I mean, that's what we felt in terms of the ability to make the deal that we did. There is eagerness in China also for cell and gene therapy. I mean, you probably saw that the number of clinical trials and the number of activities in China is overtaking everywhere else in the world. So there is an opportunity, there is a desire, and we need also, again, to match the opportunities developing here in Belgium with the opportunities developing in China, with a good matching, strategic alignment, good cultural fit in terms of the organization, and in that way deliver value to stakeholders, have fun delivering the science, and above all, bring value to patients, as that's our mission in the end.
Yes, thank you, Miguel. So strategic alignment and building trust between partners, I understand that is very key. So Fabrizia, you started, as you mentioned before, to really investigate the opportunities in China. Could you share your experience with the other Belgian companies?
Yes, indeed. So first of all, I think that a very important point is do not underestimate China and China capabilities. The fact that in the past China was known to be copycat or fake product, this is not reality anymore. China is an advanced country. They invest a lot in artificial intelligence, in high-level technology. So we should never think that we go there and we can just position our product and our solution as if they are not prepared to them. This would not be true. China has advanced, or sometimes even more advanced than Western countries when it comes about artificial intelligence and high-level technology. And it's very important to really understand if your product might be welcome. For example, in our experience at Radiomics, we are really leading specific research on the oncology burden that China has to manage. And we also really try to understand this from the government point of view. So for example, China has emphasized that China 5 high priority disease areas is cancer. The Chinese government Healthy China Action Plan and the National Precision Medicine Initiative, they both underline this point, and also the fact that China exhibit a unique epidemiological and patient profile, like for example, the fact that adenocarcinoma patients in China, usually for 61%, they present a specific EGR mutation, which is only present in 11% of the patients in the United States. So this is just an example, but it's really important not just to think the fact that China is big and so that the product will automatically address itself. You really have to find your niche, your specific need to meet. And do not, of course, think that you can do that alone. It's very important to find a partner which can help you with the bureaucracy, with the commercialization, and also in putting you in connection with the right people on the territory.
Thank you, Fabrizia. So clearly finding the right partner, starting with a niche strategy and expanding afterwards is your advice for the Belgian companies. Now moving to our Chinese colleagues. So Jean, could I have also your advice for the Chinese company willing actually to enter into the Europe market based on your Grand Pharma experience and Oro Arena for sure?
Thank you, Mark. I think I quite agree with Miguel Forgi for the point, when we're talking about the Belgian company to explore the opportunity in China. So I want to share, 3 points here. I think firstly, it's also very important. We need to sort out the strategy for your potential partner. So which you must make sure it's complementary with your own. And the China pharma industry is at a very transformative period. And the opportunity for the faster follower and me too, or even me better, I think the opportunity has already been wiping out. So and also we understand the policy in China, like the impact of the collective procurements of generic medicines, and even for the first-in-class medicines, that's quite profound in China. So I think knowing this kind of background will help you to understand the strategy for the China company. And secondly, I think we cannot underestimate the difference of the culture and also the business logic between China and the Western countries. and prepared for the cultural conflict. I think I'm quite lucky, my partner is a very seasoned entrepreneur with more than 30 years biotech experience. So it's quite easy for us to make a consensus, but I don't think this is a scenario for everyone. And the last one, I think we need to pay attention to the operational capacity of your partner. So we know that making decision is very difficult, but when you're operating on the ground, it's even harder. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Eugene. So really partnership is, I would say, the common advice of all of you, and finding the right partner is really the way forward. And now moving to you, you mentioned that you have already 15 years experience in Europe. So could you provide some advice to your colleagues in China attending the webinar today? What to do actually to enter and to develop your activities in the European market?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So I think I will come from a different angles, because we are the Chinese companies come to here to do the business. So I think, as I said before, to build the trust with the clients, with the collaborator is the first important thing. And also, I think the European market appreciates this point, and they always want to build a long-term relationship. I think secondly, for other Chinese companies, so if they want to enter this market, I think come here and to feel the market and to meet people, talk to the people. I think it's quite straightforward to exchange ideas and maybe across the different opinions and the culture differences. So it may be difficult at the moment, but I think it's getting better in the next year.
Oh, thank you. Yes, coming and starting to engage actually with partner and discussing and finding the right one is a great advice as well. So now the roundtable is coming to an end. So I would like to thank all of you for your very insightful discussion and participation. And over to you, Licia.
Thanks, Mark, for the great moderate work, and thanks very much for the 4 guest speakers for this intensive but yet very inspiring roundtable discussion. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
we definitely understand that actually judging by the different stage of your company, actually there is never one entry model fits all for companies that wants to enter international market. I hope their respective company insights can bring our participants, who are actually representing over 35 companies and organizations today, both from China and Belgium, to be of great reference actually for their future international strategy development. And before we finish today's webinar, I would like to invite Mr. Eric Tuati for marketing and entrepreneurship of CBTC, the first technological platform invested by China in the heart of Europe, Belgium. Eric, welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and good afternoon if you're listening to us from China. It is a pleasure to appear in front of you on behalf of CBTC China-Belgium Technology Center. I would like to conclude our Life Science Exchange webinar. Allow me to thank every one of you who've joined us virtually or physically in Shenzhen, Wuhan, Beijing, Belgium, and Europe. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your attention for the last hours during the various keynote presentation and roundtable discussion. I'd like to renew our deep thanks to Dr. Xu Zhehan, Chairman of ACPB, and his team for making this 3rd edition of China-Belgium Science and Technology Exchange Symposium a success. I'd like to express our gratitude as well to our honored guests from the Chinese Embassy in Belgium. And of course, I'd like to thank our dear partner, the Wallonia Export and Investment Agency, also known as the IWEX, the China Association for Science and Technology, the Belgian Chinese Chamber of Commerce, and the BioWin Health Cluster of Wallonia. Thanks again, Mark, for moderating the last roundtable. Finally, very special thanks, of course, to all the speakers and moderators who have taken part in this first session. Having listened to our guest speaker today, we have discovered the strategy of internationalization on one hand for the life science sector. We've learned about the challenges, but more importantly, we've learned and listened to the opportunities that life science can represent. I have to say it is truly inspiring to witness concrete development in technologies between our region, who have such an exciting life science ecosystem. Thanks again to Mr. Bulto from Universals, who share the future of biomanufacturing technology and the development of his company in China. I was very interested as well to learn more from Dr. Zhang from GMAX Bio and the development of the clinical stage drug, having various applications to treat chronic disease, cardiovascular disease, or immuno-oncology. Thanks to Mr. Isler from EU SME Center, providing his very interesting experience, first of all, very long experience, and his insight on how SME can enter the Chinese market and how EU SME can support them to do so. Finally, it was great to have the roundtable discussion animated and moderated by Mark and Licia. It was very interesting to have the point of view of Dr. Forte from Bond Therapeutics, the point of view of Fabrizia as well from Radiomics, Dr. Chen from Oro NNA, and Dr. Chu from BGI Europe. With this year marking 50 years of diplomatic relation between China and Belgium, the China-Belgium Technology Center is one of the most tangible outcomes of this fruitful collaboration when it comes to technology. CBTC exists to build an innovative ecosystem that bridges Chinese and European science and technology companies. And it is here to support their bilateral development, especially in the life science sector. The CBTC team is at your service and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Don't hesitate to visit our new website on www.cbtc.eu or get in touch with us on LinkedIn. We will briefly give you an introduction video of what is CBTC, because I'm sure if a lot of you have learned and heard about it, you'll be happy to discover a bit more. And once again, on behalf of CBTC, I would like to thank each and every one of you for attending this event and to thank you for your passion in science and technology, making China and Belgium every day closer. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's no sound. Maybe you share not good. You need to share the voice also. If you choose the share screen, you have two buttons you need to choose. No, it's not here. It's share the. It's not the video. It's the share screen. Please redo it.
sounds.
The sound. You have no sound.
I'm supposed to hear the sounds.
Okay, everyone. Can you stop share the screen? Okay, thanks, Eric. And thanks for the sharing, even though we have some technical problems, not able to hearing the sound, but I think the image speaks louder. So we all see the great and laboratories and offices of CBTC. So thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks all the distinguished guests, and thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. So today we have a representative from over 35 companies and more than 70 people joining our life science webinar. So which is a true reflection about the interest of the market entry of both in China and also in Europe. So you will all receive a follow-up email next week with actually the presentation of today's keynote speeches and also a recording of today's webinar, if that interests you. Thanks again, and have a great rest of the day. Thanks all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you. Yeah, so also see you tomorrow. Huh? You tomorrow have a
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.